Welcome to Sonic Legacy, where we dive into the timeless tales and transformative tunes that have shaped generations.
All right, welcome everybody. This is Sonic Legacy. I'm Andy. With me on tonight is Gary and Alan. We are discussing iconic songs. We each were given the task of picking a handful of iconic songs, but today we're going to be talking just about two of them. These are not necessarily personals, though they could be our personal favorite songs or iconic songs, so to speak, but they're just ones that we feel are iconic in the grand scheme of things. And that's a lot of what we'll be doing here, is just talking about how iconic songs can be, how they transcend even the era, the genre, the generation. And I think tonight we're going to see how it goes, the first episode, see what happens. What do you think, Gary?
I'm loving it. Let's do it. Let's talk about the legacy of music. And I think it starts off with an iconic song. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Alan, you ready to do this?
I'm ready. I'm ready. This was a week of struggling to winnow this down to two.
I know it was tough.
It's been hard. It's hard. And I ran them by people. I was like, hey, if I showed, if I had two, are these two it? And they're like, oh yeah, those are good. So hopefully.
Well, it's funny because if you look up and you talk to people, everybody will give you a list. They'll give you 20 songs, and they may not be your 20. You're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that song. And the thing is that I think, and we'll do this because the beauty of this is we can do as many episodes of this as we want. Is we can do it by generation, we can do it by era, we can do it by style, we can do it by bands, because some bands have iconic albums that we can't ignore.
Yeah.
But to get the conversation going, we're going to start off. We're each going to give two songs that we're going to discuss. I'm going to go first with my two songs, and we'll discuss them. And you can agree or be wrong. It's simple as that. So my very first song, and I feel confident both of you will agree with me that at least it's a very good song. I don't know if you'll agree that it's iconic, but for me, I think it is. And I'll give you some reasons why. But the very first song that I'm going to talk about, and the very first on the episode of Sonic Legacy and Iconic Songs, for me, Boys of Summer, Don Henley, 1985. Written by Don Henley and Mike Campbell. Of course, if you do any scrolling of the interwebs, you hear the story of how the song got to Don Henley. And Alan, we've had lengthy conversations about this specific song because it's so, in my opinion, it's so freaking good. So let me give you some couple little tidbits, and then we will have a nice little discussion about it if you want. Doing some research, I found out so while fooling around on his new Lynn drum machine, Heartbreakers guitarist Mike Campbell, as Alan would attest to this, and Gary, I think you know the story too. He whipped up this guitar figure over an electronic beat and brought the results to his pal and his boss, Tom Petty. The track didn't quite work for Petty, but former Eagle Don Henley heard something poignant in the looping production, and he immediately wrote some lyrics that expressed the ultimate farewell to 60s idealism. Made more poignant by the song's very 80s sound, its stark black and white video won Video of the Year at the 1985 MTV Music Video Awards. The lyrics appear to be about the passing of youth and entering into middle age, with a nostalgic theme of summer love and reminiscence of past relationships. In a 1987 interview with Rolling Stone, Henley explained that the song is about aging and questioning the past, a recurring theme in Henley's lyrics, i.e. the end of the innocence, taking you home. Also in an interview at NME in 1985, he explained that the Deadhead sticker on a Cadillac lyric is a prime example of his generation selling out, which it's a great line. I think it's an iconic line, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
And Henley, he kind of said where he got the idea. He was driving down to San Diego freeway, and he got passed by a Cadillac Seville, a status symbol of the right-wing upper middle class in America, and all the guys with blue blazers and crests and the gray pants, and there was this Grateful Dead Deadhead bumper sticker on. And that's kind of where he got that idea for it. And of course, the song's title is taken from Roger Kahn's 1972 book about the Brooklyn Dodgers, which was all in turn taken from a Dylan Thomas poem, The Boys of Summer. And this song reached number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100, and it won a Grammy in 1986 for Best Male Rock Performance. So, gentlemen, Boys of Summer, Don Henley, Agree, disagree? Do you think I'm a fool?
No, I love the song. I think it's a great way to start. I want to hear Alan talk about this. You said you guys have had multiple conversations about this, and I want to hear some perspective.
We have.
We have a love affair with this song.
We have a love affair. To me, it's I would call it the greatest song ever written. That with no hyperbole there. For me, it again, I'm not saying that every person would agree with that, or a lot of music is generational. It hits you at a time in your life. I was 15, 16 years old, driving around listening to that song. And to me, what makes a great song, and we've talked about this, Andy, it is kind of when the lyrics match the melody, and it matches the music, and it matches the mood of the song. Everything comes together, and it's a hearkening back. It's reminiscing. It's longing for something you've lost. Which, look, anyone who's aged past 20, or any, heck, 12, can relate to it. The lyrics are just, what's kind of the word? It's not like a specific lyric. They're just generic enough to where you can relate to it.
Everybody can.
It's beautiful, and I think the main thing, the most complimentary thing I think you can see, and I was just watching this the other day. Remember in COVID when all these artists were, I'm going to perform live from my house. Yeah. And Melissa Etheridge was there doing some piano stuff, and she was playing some of her own songs. She was talking about songs that meant stuff to her, and she's a huge Springsteen person.
Yeah.
She picked Boys of Summer, and she just said, listen, I've written a lot of songs about this person who I loved and lost when I was young, and none of them come close to Boys of Summer. And I think if you talk to artists, I think everybody would say that. And when you talk to people in private, not private, we have conversations like you and I have, it is truly a masterpiece. I mean, just to think that someone could take that guitar lick, which is amazing, and then put those words over it and have it convey that emotion, because it's so hard to articulate these things that we feel as humans. Yeah, I mean, I just no other way to say it. I mean,
I mean, to me, it's the whole reason I think Gary and I started talking about doing this podcast was music is more than just sound. It wraps itself around you like a blanket sometimes when you need it.
Yeah.
And Gary, you and I were just talking about, we were watching the Bon Jovi documentary and how it took you back to a different time.
Yeah.
And to me, Boys of Summer does that. It is a song. Everybody longs for something. Maybe it's your past. Maybe it's a past love. Maybe it's just hanging with your friends. Maybe it's sitting in the top of a radiator shop writing songs. We long for something that we didn't know at the time. We were in the best moments of our lives. And here we are now, so many years later, looking back. And this song, I don't know of a song that captures this any better than Boys of Summer. Nostalgia, longing. And then there may be one that someone hopefully will chime in and tell me I'm wrong. Or tell me there's a song that show me, because I want to hear this song. If there's something better.
Sometimes it happens where a song just takes the slot. And I think Boys of Summer does that. And I think when you think about the lyrics and you think about a person who is obviously about a past relationship, and someone says, I drove by your house and you're not home. And while that can be, and probably in 2024, someone would say stalker, we've all done it. And we've all thought about it, or at least maybe you physically haven't done it, but you've thought about it. You've thought about that. Yeah. And the thing with artists is this vulnerability that they bring, that they can talk about something, and then we talk about why we love music, and it's because it's articulating something that just sounds different over music. It's almost like how when grandma makes you a sandwich, it's the same ingredients when you make it, but it tastes better. Like she cuts it a certain way. And when you hear someone like Don Henley, again, he's a world famous rock musician who struggles with love, just like everyone, and it makes him more human. And he's done that across a lot of the songs. We've talked about the Last Worthless Evening, which I think is about Michelle Pfeiffer and seeing her at a party. It's so human. And to listen to it and to be that vulnerable, to put yourself out there. Phil Collins did it with Against All Odds, to be that naked, to just talk. And like I said, that Boys of Summer really brings that. It was on my list to do. I knew you were going to do it. I wanted to let you have it because I know how much you love the song, but it is brilliantly written. I can't, you know.
Well, Gary, and talk about how
I will say, I wanted to say that Henley holds I'm sure Andy feels the same way. Henley holds a special place in my heart, especially considering that I had such a very narrow view of music for the longest time. Especially,
I was more narrow than you.
Yeah. And I don't know what the happenstance was. We ended up going to a Don Henley concert. And
I can tell you if you're curious.
Yeah. I mean, but to get to the point real quick, I'll just say that it was so eye-opening to me that to sit in those stands and see you become one with everybody in the crowd. You're experiencing the same thing, and you see this, you hear these songs, and the people singing it back to the artist.
Exactly.
And it really hit me in a spot where I was like, oh man, like music is so much bigger. And Henley, that was a big experience for me. That was a real moment of growth that just I'll forever be thankful for that one moment that just turned me on to a whole other thing. Now, I liked this song when it came out, but it wasn't really super special to me at the time. And that concert really did a whole, like, man, it just blew out the horizon for me as far as musical interest and things. I know it sounds kind of weird because you think, that's not a big, thing, but for me it was, and I think for Andy it was. But Andy, how was it that we came across that? So, I think I know, but I mean, I just want to.
Labor Day weekend, 90, 89, whenever the End of the Innocence album had coming out. As Alan, you can attest, Cincinnati has the annual WEBN fireworks. And Gary and I were not interested in going at all to the fireworks because it is a shite show, as the British would say. And Kevin, our dear friend Kevin Hayes, who will be on here eventually, had tickets to see Don Henley at Lexington's Rupp Arena. He said, "Hey, you guys want to go?" And he goes, "I know it's not your thing," because Gary and I cut our teeth on the Sunset Strip, the Bon Jovis of the world, the Kisses of the world, not these grumpy old men, the Eagles singing about disdain for America. And we both went because we had nothing else to do. We weren't going to the fireworks. So we go down to Lexington's Rupp Arena. We had pretty good seats not on the floor, but right close to the floor. And I don't know if it was the same moment for you, Gary, but there was a moment, like an aha moment. It was like church for me. It was religious.
I can tell you what song it was.
I think it was for me. See if it's the same one. Desperado.
Yeah.
He sat at the piano. If you remember, tell me if you remember it differently, Gary. What I remember is he played those opening, doom, and he sang Desperado into the microphone. He turned to the audience and just looked, and 15,000 people sang the entire song back to him. Yeah. I mean, I get chills right now thinking about it. And Gary and it changed music for me. Prior to that, it was all about Kiss, writing songs about having sex that I was never going to have with women I were never going to meet. Don Henley made me realize there's a poetry, there's a beauty, there's something about you writing a song and 15,000 people know every word. They don't need you to do another thing. Just give them the go. And consequently, Gary, Gary has introduced me to a wonderful artist named Butch Walker. And I've been in a room of 200 people. And Butch is an artist that has a cult following that 200 people will sing his entire set list back to him.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to hit a lick. He can just tell me what the next song is, and they will sing the set list back. Not one song, 14 songs. And I look around in awe. I mean, to a point, Gary, that I mean, my daughter, who was 18, she's the same way. She wants to go to Butch Walker concerts because she's like, there's nothing like this in the world. 200 people, 5,000 people, it doesn't matter. But that was Don Henley, and it changed the way I looked at. I wanted to be a songwriter. Before I wanted to be a rock drummer. After Henley, I wanted to be a songwriter.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I ever will be, but Gary and I spent countless hours trying to have an ounce of what Don Henley does. So that's Boys of Summer for me.
Yeah, well, that concert you saw, I believe that's probably the fall of '89, maybe late summer '89. I don't know if that's when the tour was, but that album was released then. And there's a few things that you can remember where you were, and I remember just listening to all those songs. And again, it's for people. It's a little deeper. It's not. You would hear it on pop radio, but it's not pop music. The lyrics are way deeper than "I love you, you love me." There's a lot more going on there, and for me, it was genius. The whole thing, and I love to see other people feel the same way, because sometimes you're listening to this, especially in 1989. It's before iTunes.
Yeah.
And the only music you're sharing is what's hot on the radio, and then that one single is attracting you to buy the whole album, and you buy it, you put it in, and you're hearing singles before they're singles, or the songs before they're singles. And I was just blown away by that record. And when Boys of Summer came out, I mean, that was a big deal to me. And I remember just watching it on MTV and seeing the black and white video. And of course, I think it won all. If my memory serves me correctly, it swept everything.
Yeah.
Because he's just in the back of a car, and it's he's doing
black and white.
Yes, and then there's the people on the beach, and the man and the woman running up and down, and the kids, and the kid playing the drum. It really is, and it uses the Boys of Summer, which is a baseball metaphor, but it's really not about. Well,
and like the line that always got me, because I always and this may shock some people, but I've not been good with relationships with the ladies, and Gary can attest. I always felt like sometimes I was always like that guy, that even I'll still be there even after the Boys of Summer have gone. Your girl would go out and date somebody else, and I would still be there if she came back and just said hi to me. I'd be like, all right, I'm back in, because I I didn't want to lose what I had, and I just longed for holding on to everything I could at the time. It's kind of sad and pathetic. Hopefully Gary edits that out, but
Well, I don't think it's sad and pathetic at all, and I think. I mean, it sounds that way, but like I said, that's part of the vulnerability of the lyrics, and that's part of the vulnerability of singing something like that. It's just like, hey, I'm having trouble moving on here, and we can get into men.
Listen,
because there's a lot of people who can't let things go, and men are women. They're like your cat when it throws up. They throw up and they're off. They're fine.
Yeah.
But men, we tend to kind of hang on to things, and for like I said, to see a grown man, because men are supposed to be the strong, we're supposed to be this, and then you hear this. That's what I always loved about Don Henley, was this side. Can you imagine being the drummer for the Eagles and to have all the success and stuff, and yet there's someone at a party you can't get? And it's like, oh, okay, so he struggles too.
He's not just me.
Or right, because you can't have everything you want, and you wouldn't want it if you could get it. But the way it harkens back, and the melody, and that guitar is just haunting. It's got to be in a minor key. I mean, I don't think that's a major key. It's got to be in a minor key, and it just works. It's just where everything lines up. Sometimes you'll hear songs and the lyrics are happy, but the music's sad. Sometimes you hear it's just the opposite. That thing is a home run.
Well, I've got a number two. I've got a second song that I think is just as important. No, I won't say just as important. That's kind of overselling this one, but this song was part of a sonic change in music history, and we were witness to it. There were bigger songs, I think, of the era, but this song for this band, and I didn't know this at the time, so I did some research on it, was actually the biggest song off this album, and I didn't know that. I'm going with from 1992, "Jeremy" from Pearl Jam.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I didn't see that coming because I'm wearing my Kiss shirt. But I say this for a couple reasons. My better half loves Pearl Jam. 10 was a powerful album. Alan, I know you can attest to this. And I wanted to go with Alive here. But in my head, I kept thinking, I've been to a lot of Pearl Jam concerts because of Teresa. And there's a song that when you hear that, doom, 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 that bass opening riff, and 15,000 people lose their ever-loving minds. And that song came out in 92. It's over 30 years old, and people still lose their minds over a bass line. And to me, that screams iconic, because you don't need to hear anything else. You know what the song is. It's like hearing the opening riff of Boys of Summer. Down now, you know right then and there what the song is. There's not what is the song again?
Yeah.
So Jeremy, 1992, written by Eddie Vedder and the great Jeff Ament. Some quick facts. Jeremy became, and this is what I found out, became the most successful song from 10 on the American rock charts. It peaked at number 5 on the Billboard album rock tracks and modern rock track charts. The single has been certified gold by the Recording Industry Association of America. It reached the top 40 on the Canadian singles chart. It also reached UK's top 20, peaked at number 93 in Germany, and reached top 40 in New Zealand, and was a top 10 success in Ireland. At the 1993 Grammy Awards, Jeremy received nominations for Best Rock Song and Best Hard Rock Performance. A guy named Chris True of AllMusic said that, quote, Jeremy is where Pearl Jam mania galvanized and propelled the band past the Seattle sound and into rock royalty. He described it as a classic build-up tune and proclaimed it as arguably Pearl Jam's most earnest work and one of their most successful singles. So, Gary, Alan?
Look, man, I will say that it's interesting that you picked that versus Boys of Summer. So you've got that as your first one.
Two upbeat, danceable songs.
Which tells a story. Boys of Summer tells a story, but tells it in such a way, and the lyrics, like Alan said, are just vague enough that you can put your own experience to it and all that. Another thing with music that's important, and especially in iconic songs, are ones that paint a picture and tell a story. And I think, without a doubt, Jeremy tells a story.
Absolutely.
And also draws attention to some things that maybe, is important for people to look at what's going, it's not all about you all the time. Somebody has something going on with them. Everybody's living their own life and they have their own things to deal with. Clearly it talks about that in there. I don't want to go too far into that because I feel like with this particular genre of music, Alan's going to have a ton to say about
it. He's like,
I want to hear, but I enjoy hearing everybody. So,
but I love to have a story.
Yeah. But I mean, I would be interested to hear what it does it have a meaning to you at all? When he says Jeremy, where does it take you to?
Yeah, Gary, because
what does it evoke in you? Because you don't have to know a lot, and I don't know everything about Jeremy or whatever. But what does it bring you back to a time? Did you like the song when it was out? What's it something?
We never talked about what I know. None of us were huge, although I was probably a bigger fan of Pearl Jam than you were. Mm-hmm. But I've never really asked you, what is your thoughts on Pearl Jam and Jeremy in specific?
I would not. How there's bands that you recognize as very talented and you can appreciate them, and maybe you even dip into them, but you don't stay with them. Oh
yeah.
That's Pearl Jam to me. I recognize the talent, and there was a point in time where I really enjoyed, a couple of their albums, but I just they were one of those bands that I just didn't follow and I was not heavily into.
Yeah.
But I can recognize talent, and I can recognize that, this song, I'm looking at the lyrics now, if you're wondering why I'm looking off the song.
It's dark.
I mean, it is, but it paints a picture. It tells a story, and it's deep. I mean, and I'm trying to think of the time, like what I was going through at the time. I can't relate to it in a sense of, I know exactly where I was when I heard that, and I knew what was going on in my life at the time. But man, I can imagine being a kid in school when this song came out, and imagine what was going on. And did that make you wonder about the kid that's kind of
it's based on a real true story.
Yeah.
So imagine that, like, there were people who lived through Jeremy. I mean, that was the kid's name. I mean, just horrific. But anyway, what I brought it up for is because to me, we all have different thoughts of what is iconic. To me, it's one of those songs. Sometimes you can hear a riff, a note, and you know exactly what it is. And that was with this one for me. Plus, it's a beautiful story. I mean, it's a good story. But Alan, I defer to the man from Mount Lookout.
I love that Gary brought up a great thing that got my wheels turning as far as Pearl Jam. If we go back to when 10 was released, Pearl Jam was a little different in that there was a lot of socially conscious songs. They were not all pleasant. If you ever know what Alive is about, you'll probably your head will freak out. It's not what it means to people today at all. But Jeremy was pretty straightforward, and what I loved about it was they weren't afraid. They used the medium of MTV because we know how they turned against all the music videos and the singles and stuff. But Pearl Jam kind of went against the grain. They wanted to not be a singles band, or they didn't want to be known for these hits. And Jeremy was written again about a true story. And they would take, like, if you remember the artwork for the cover, like the single, and they took Kelly Curtis's daughter, the manager for Heart, and he managed Pearl Jam, that he took his daughter and took a picture of her with some crayons and a gun in a picture.
Oof.
And so it's on the 45 sleeve, right? And so it immediately evokes this thing where I'm looking at a child with a gun. And what that does to you, because good art, or good, it's art. Good art, it's a cover album, or it's a cover of a single. Good art evokes something in you. And I was like, oh, that's a child with a gun. Oh, ick, right? And that doesn't go right. But that's exactly what they want you to feel. And you listen to that song, and again, probably a minor key there, a little darker, lots of sharps and flats. It's an amazing tune that really brings that story alive. And when like you said, when you hear the opening, instantly takes you there. And then I think the back, Pearl Jam, like the concert T-shirts, they would have, little Jessica on the cover, and then in the back said 7 out of kids prefer crayons over guns.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, it's a social message, whether you agree or not. It doesn't,
right.
That's not what I don't care about that. But it was interesting that a band would do that, would tackle that, because of where we were in the 1980s, which was about fun, which was about hair, which was about Aquanet, having a good time. Nothing wrong with any of that. It maybe ran its course, and here comes this new music where it kind of had a little bit deeper meaning, if that's what you wanted. The songs will be played in 200 years. People will listen to Jeremy and Alive and all that stuff.
I mean, I think he will be. I mean, that's what we're all talking about with iconic songs, is we think these songs will stand the test of time. I mean, I don't think the social issues will ever go away. People will always be socially active, and in that sense. Hopefully the school shootings will go away. Let's hope that does. But music, I mean, that's what I love about music. God, it's just, like I said, I'm going to see Pearl Jam here in a week. We're going to see them, and I look forward. I expect to hear that at every show. I never tire of it. And when I do, I always look around at the crowd, and you're watching a sea of people, Gary, just like we saw with Henley, a sea of people that are for this moment in time, nothing matters. It's a family. They're all singing back to a guy, which is something Gary and we always longed for that. We always wanted to be the rock star, to have someone singing one of our songs back. It never quite happened that way, but we tried. But that's what I'm at. And I mean, Jeremy, Alan, what was your thoughts on Jeremy? Did you, as far as that album 10? I mean, because there's Alive, Even Flow, Oceans. There's it's just countless. That album was a juggernaut. But Jeremy was just a beast. Yeah,
no, that time period for me, and I know Gary's kind of talked about me in grunge, but again, that's what
I understood it to be, was that that's your.
It is. Again, I was into, listen, in the 1980s, I was like everyone else. I love Def Leppard. I love Journey. I love Night Ranger. I love Bon Jovi. I loved all of that. But again, it ran its course, and it's hard for people to, by the time 89, 88 was around, it's Vixen, right? I mean, again, I'm not putting in, I don't want to insult Vixen, someone's watching this or something, but it just kind of gets winnowed down. And the same thing happened to grunge. It just kind of gets winnowed down until we're calling, Candlebox grunge, or we're calling the Gin Blossoms grunge, or something like that. But when 10 came out, it was unlike anything I had heard. And a lot of that is just because of the way they tune their guitars. Again, in the 80s, it's very bright and happy. And then in the early 90s, it became a little dark. You're doing a drop D tuning, and it's almost like a Black Sabbath. It evokes a certain mood from you.
Yeah.
And my feeling with 10 was that it was unlike anything I'd ever heard. It was socially conscious. There were messages and meanings, and you kind of felt like, oh my God, I'm kind of bright listening to this, right? It makes you feel like you're like in on this secret, even though that everyone knew who they were. But when then you see them on stage at the MTV Awards with Neil Young, then you know that they're getting recognition within the industry, and that this is something you're witnessing a point in time that is, you're going to look back on it. And I think a lot of that music is aged incredibly well. I think some of it sounds it sounds even better than it did then. And you could listen to, so if you turn on your classic rock station right now, and they may play some Led Zeppelin, but they'll intertwine Pearl Jam and Nirvana, and they go real well together. It all sounds, it sounds very good. My favorite song on 10 is Black, and I think just because Black, I think, is a lot like Boys of Summer, where it evokes lyrics, performance, music, everything melts together, where it's the perfect thing. Like he's singing about this heartbreak and you're feeling it.
Absolutely.
Jeremy is very much similar to that. It's one of the most, I can't believe you chose it. And I mean, I agree with you. It's an iconic song. It's awesome. I'm happy you chose it. I mean that. It just evokes something when you hear those chords played that way. It just brings something out in you, which is exactly what music should do.
Yeah.
Good music.
I agree with me. Genius.
Thank you.
Guys, that's all I got for 2 songs. So I guess we should wrap this up and move on to the next 2 songs. All right. Well, that's it for this episode. Our 2 iconic songs. Please chime in. Tell us if you agree, disagree. Tell me where I'm wrong, or if you agree with me, or if you think I'm right. Let's see what the next 2 songs are. Thanks for listening and tuning in to Sonic Legacy.
This has been a Touch of Madness production, brought to you by the creative minds at Tommy Twins Media.